Hello. Well, this is by way of an introduction to a eulogy which I wrote and intended to be spoken at my dad's funeral recently, but for one reason or another it didn't quite happen that way. Just as well, I think, because I think I'd have struggled physically to do it, to be honest. So I'm going to do it now, and it's meant to be spoken, so I'm going to speak it. So we'll be back in a minute, and we'll be off with the eulogy for Alfred John Hosler. Right. Okay. I'd like to start by reading a few words that were written a week or so before Dad died. It was fairly clear by then where we were headed, but we didn't expect it to be so quick. This is called Last Orders. They're calling last orders on the last of the line. He's had a good innings, but the umpire's called time. He's fought a good fight all the way to the line, but they're calling last orders for the very last time. He's a man who has carried his burden and mostly made light of the chore. He's provided well for his loved ones, all those he's responsible for. No skeletons clank in his cupboard, no sins to reproach himself for. He's done what was needed, in that he succeeded, and in the end, who can ask more? Left school at 14 to start his first job, printer's apprentice, about 30 bob. A homespun philosopher, thought for himself, his ideas his own, not picked off a shelf. But somehow he knew the secret. It's not about what you can grab. The trick is not striving to get what you want, but to want what you already have. They're calling last orders on the last of the line. He's had a good innings, but the umpire's called time. He's had his last drink in the last chance saloon. He's resident now in God's waiting room. He's fought a good fight all the way to the line, but they're calling last orders for the very last time. Okay, well, the bit about being a philosopher is very true. Many of us talk about the merits of being content with what we have, but few manage to embed it in their lives as completely as he did. For example, every Sunday lunchtime he would sample the meat on his plate and state, "Marvellous bit of beef, can't beat beef, better than all your pork, better than all your lamb." Then the next week it would be, "Marvellous bit of pork, can't beat pork, better than all your beef, better than all your lamb." And if it was lamb, yes, you get the idea. So he celebrated what was on his plate at the time as being the best it could possibly be, because he chose to make it so. We used to joke that he was the man who had everything, which made him very difficult to buy birthday and Christmas presents for. "I've got shirts, slippers, socks," he'd say. "Why waste your money on another one?" His likes and dislikes were very individual. Never owned a car, never drove a car. We think the fact that he walked and travelled by train all his life was one of the reasons he stayed so fit for so long. Never had a foreigner holiday, not interested. And he disliked, with a passionate intensity, a host of seemingly harmless A-list performers, including Dean Martin, Jose Carreras, Johnny Mathis, Alfie Boe, and the later Tony Bennett. More recently, Diane Crowell was honoured by being added to this illustrious list. We could call it the Grumpies, just to show he was in touch with modern developments. What did he like? Bing Crosby, Pavarotti, Jack Jones, Mac Monroe, Kirite Kanawa. Being with his family. A few beers in good company. Wasn't really interested in drinking at home. Drinking was about sociability. So far so good. But there came a time when the man who had everything suddenly became the man who had nothing at all. No joy in his life, no reason for living. When my mother died suddenly and unexpectedly, he was bereft of hope, broken-hearted. Bereft, broken-hearted. They're just words for most of us. But when you see them visited on someone before your eyes, it's devastating. We didn't think he'd survive the next winter, wasting away in a cold, damp house alone. But he refused to leave his home, as he insisted on calling it. But he did survive, and through a conscious strategy that was all his own. Right, strategy. For 6 months he wore a dark suit and a black tie every day. Shopping, going to the pub, everything dressed that way. On the first day of the 7th month, he arrived in the pub with a light suit and a garish yellow tie, one of his extensive collection, and began his life again. That was 15 years ago. That's what I call resilient. He was a very strong man, physically and mentally. And he was a character. The word most associated with Dad before and now was character. He was a real character. What a character. But what do we mean by a character? Well, at one level, it's a set of characteristics, a bundle of inclinations, attitudes and tendencies that together make up a personality. So what would Dad's bundle contain? On one side, gregarious, sociable, entertaining, generous, hard-working, loyal, nurturing. On the other, argumentative, confrontational, obstinate, cantankerous, mean, vain. How can you be generous and mean at the same time? Well, you spend loads of money on jewellery and clothes for your wife, and then subject her to freezing cold endurance tests at bus stops because you'd rather saw your legs off than pay for a cab. People are complicated. The last characteristic, vanity, is an interesting one. He was a good-looking man, and he knew it, proud of his fine head of hair till the end. There are a couple of photos of him in his 30s, affecting a pipe, unlit, in pursuit of the Crosby look. So, we have a collection of characteristics, some apparently contradictory, but what happens when we put them all together and bring them to life as a character? Well, this is where Alfie comes into the picture. Dad had always been Alf, of Alf and Dolly, half of a double act, but now he was flying solo, and gradually a distinct persona began to emerge. Alfie was at the controls. In fact, Alfie was a character, in the theatrical sense, a sort of exaggerated, stylised version of Alf that could have been listed in the dramatis personae of Dad's life. Alfie the lad, Alfie the boyo, Alfie the entertainer, Alfie the minstrel to his entourage, his fan club. He played the part well, with gusto and charm, and this too helped him to keep on going. He was genuinely idiosyncratic, signalled by his practice of wearing a suit every day to the pub, long after everyone else had adopted the casual approach. Everyone knew Alfie, the man in the suit. Go to any of the several watering holes he has frequented around his home base of Woodford and Wanstead, and ask, has Alfie been in yet? And the odds are one of the regulars will be able to say yes or no. But if there were only newer guys there, and no one responded, and you followed up with, you know, the man in the suit, there would be a collective sigh of recognition. Oh, him! Yes, he was in, but he's gone down to George. And now he's gone, and left a big hole in our lives. There are a million memories, but for now, I'll concentrate on that signature close statement. Alfie in his suit. With a smart suit and tie, and a song in your heart, now it's time for goodbye. So good night, sweetheart.